I was not planning on making this video today. My plan was to add the R5 Mark II to my cart this morning and hit pre-order, and then whenever it arrived, make a video detailing my experiences shooting with it in the field. However, after watching a lot of videos, after reading a lot of things about all of the specs, I've decided to hold off, and I want to share with you my reasoning for not upgrading from the R5 Mark I to the R5 Mark II. Two big things I wanted to see in a Mark II was the ability to maybe manage the heat a little bit better so that the camera wouldn't shut down in warm conditions when shooting at high frame rates or shooting in 4K 120 frames per second. And then the second thing that I wanted to see improved was the electronic shutter, the rolling shutter that you get with it, and a lot of people were clamoring for a global shutter that would solve that problem. Now, Canon took care of those two issues. However, they did it in a way that maybe we weren't exactly expecting. It seems that the innards of the camera have been redesigned to handle heat a little bit better, and then you can also purchase a battery grip with a cooling fan attached that should prevent any kind of heat shutdowns from happening in the future with the R5 Mark II. Now, the camera itself was introduced at a higher price than I was anticipating, and many others as well. It comes in at $4,299, which is about $400 more than I was expecting, I was budgeting for. Whenever you factor in the battery grip that I would need to purchase to make sure that the camera doesn't overheat, that's another $399. Now, a kicker to add in there, it seems that some features of the camera and the cooling feature of the battery grip will not work with the previous Canon batteries. It seems that you're going to need to purchase a new Canon battery in order to activate some features, including that cooling function. So, you figure that the camera comes with one battery, you're going to need to purchase at least one, but probably 3 additional batteries to keep the camera running with the battery grip and the cooling fan. That brings the price way higher than I was planning to spend. Pre-tax, depending on how many batteries you buy, you're looking at somewhere between $4,777 or $4,935. Adding in tax, you're well over $5,000 for this kit. And that doesn't begin to factor in that you're going to need a new CF Express card and other things that go along with purchasing a new camera. Now, there is no doubt that the improved 45 megapixel stacked BSI CMOS sensor that is paired with the very latest Digic X and Digic Accelerator dual image processors will improve image quality and will improve the autofocusing capabilities of the camera. I shoot a lot of sports, and with volleyball and baseball and sports like that where the ball is going to be moving very quickly, I was forced to use a mechanical shutter to prevent the rolling shutter effect of like a distorted ball or maybe even a body part at times. This caused me to miss key moments sometimes where the ball was just getting ready to hit the bat, or in volleyball a hitter was just getting ready to hit the ball, and I was really hoping for a global shutter that would prevent this problem. Now, Canon technicians are saying that the stack sensor is going to take care of this issue, and I will believe them, but I really do want to see this in action in the field first before I make my major purchase. The sensor seems that it's going to improve the autofocusing in the camera as well. Now, the Mark I has incredible tracking and focusing capabilities, but it does use contrast focusing, and I have found that in dark situations there are times, and with dark animals, I photograph a lot of black bears, and sometimes in a dark situation with a dark animal, it can struggle to find the eye and focus on the subject. In fact, just recently I was photographing a bear coming up out of the weeds, and there was like the weeds in the foreground, the bear was coming across, and the R5 Mark I was really struggling. It kept wanting to latch on to the brighter weeds rather than the darker bear. Now, something that is added to the Mark II that I'm really excited about is the fact that they are claiming that it is going to be able to focus on a subject and then track that subject even with subjects in the foreground maybe crossing into it. Even if the subject leaves the frame, it's still going to be able to latch back onto it once it enters the frame once again. So I think in that situation with something in the foreground, it's going to be less likely to latch onto that brighter foreground object. Another thing that I really like about the Mark II is that the camera body is essentially the same. The buttons are essentially in the exact same position, which is great for us that have the muscle memory for the R5 already. I was really kind of worried that they might move those buttons around and change that up. And then if you're bouncing back and forth between the Mark I and the Mark II, especially, that muscle memory is going to be goofed up. I have an R7 and I don't use it that often, and I'm always looking at the back of the camera rather than just knowing where to move my hand to make my setting adjustments. One change that they did make to the body of the camera that I really appreciate is that there's now a switch to go between stills and video. I really like that. The R5 Mark I, as you know, has the mode button on the top, and then you're going to the back of your LCD screen to select the feature that you want to use. There were rumors that there was going to be a tiltable electronic viewfinder that I really was looking forward to. I love to get low angle shots, as many of us do, and I'm not a huge fan of using the LCD screen. I would kind of rather be looking into that viewfinder, especially the new and improved viewfinder that the Mark II is going to have. And there were rumors that the viewfinder was going to be tiltable, so you would be able to be down low and tilt the viewfinder so that your neck wasn't in some kind of yoga position as you were shooting low angle shots. But as it seems, the viewfinder is not tiltable and it's just in a fixed position. The Mark II has another feature that I was really excited to hear about, but the more that I dug into it, it really, for me, seems to be a bit worthless. They are promoting it as having the ability to shoot both video and stills at the exact same time. But whenever you dig into it further, you find out that the stills are only going to be JPEGs, and they're going to be shot at a much reduced frame rate per second, and video is only going to be full HD. I would be ecstatic if it was able to shoot in 4K with RAW files. That would completely change the game. So while I really like this feature and I think that it's moving in the right direction, the usability of it as it exists in this camera is not as exciting as the theory. The IBIS update is a little bit underwhelming. I would have liked to have seen this increase just a little bit more. We're going from 8 stops to 8.5 stops, so not a drastic difference there at all. The big one for the viewfinder is that there is no more blackout whenever shooting electronically. Honestly, I haven't seen that to be a huge issue for me whenever I'm shooting. I've kind of grown accustomed to it, and I'm able to follow my subject even with the blackout that happens from time to time, and honestly, it just hasn't really affected my shooting at all. There are a lot of video updates that if you're a hybrid shooter, you might be excited about, and I am a hybrid shooter, but honestly, these updates I'm not overly excited about. They don't really affect the way that I shoot currently, although in the future they could. But that is not something that was going to cause me to purchase this camera or not purchase this camera, so I'm not really going to cover that right now. I had been planning to purchase this camera on day one all along. However, the slightly higher price tag, the cooling fan battery grip that will only work with the new Canon batteries and not my R5 batteries that I've been using all along, have me pushing the pause button on this purchase right now. I'm not overly excited about all of the other features of the camera either. Improved autofocus for sure, but I'm just not sure as a hobbyist photographer that it makes it worth it to upgrade from the R5 Mark I to the R5 Mark II. I'm not saying I won't do it, I most likely will in the future, but a day one purchase right now for me just is not in the cards. I'm really wondering what your thoughts on this camera are. Are you planning to purchase it right now? Are you going to upgrade from the Mark I to the Mark II? Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this release, and I'll see you in the next video.